The British Raj, a period of British rule in India, spanned over 2 centuries, leaving an indelible mark on the subcontinent. It was a time of profound transformation, as British policies and administration shaped India's political, economic, and social landscape. The seeds of division were sown during this era, as the British employed strategies of divide and rule, often exploiting existing religious and cultural differences to maintain their control. Under British rule, India witnessed the rise of nationalism, with movements advocating for self-governance gaining momentum. However, this burgeoning sense of national identity was intertwined with growing religious and communal tensions. The British, often accused of favoring certain communities over others, inadvertently fueled these divisions, setting the stage for future conflicts. As the idea of an independent India gained traction, the question of how this diverse and complex nation would be governed became increasingly contentious. The Muslim League, under the leadership of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, began demanding a separate Muslim state, arguing that the Muslim minority would be marginalized in a Hindu-majority independent India. This demand for a separate nation based on religious identity would have far-reaching consequences. The end of World War II marked a turning point in India's struggle for independence. The war-weakened British Empire could no longer maintain its grip on its colonies, and the call for freedom reached a fever pitch in India. The Indian National Congress, led by Mahatma Gandhi, advocated for a united and independent India, while the Muslim League intensified its demand for a separate Muslim state, Pakistan. As negotiations for independence progressed, tensions between the Congress and the Muslim League escalated. The idea of dividing India along religious lines gained traction, fueled by political maneuvering, escalating communal violence, and the fear of marginalization among different communities. The Partition Plan, announced in 1947, aimed to grant independence to both India and Pakistan, but came at a heavy price. In June 1947, the British government announced the Partition Plan, dividing British India into 2 independent dominions, India and Pakistan. The plan, hastily drawn up by a British lawyer with limited knowledge of the region's intricate social fabric, resulted in a chaotic and bloody division. The Radcliffe Line, named after its architect, Sir Cyril Radcliffe, demarcated the borders of the newly formed nations, cleaving through provinces and communities, with little regard for historical ties or geographic realities. The announcement of the Partition Plan unleashed a wave of violence and mass displacement, as millions found themselves on the wrong side of the newly drawn borders. The partition, intended to be a peaceful transition of power, instead became a catalyst for one of the largest mass migrations in human history, marked by unimaginable suffering and loss. The partition triggered one of the largest mass migrations in human history, as millions of Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs were forced to flee their homes in search of safety and a new life in the newly formed nations. The scale of this exodus was unprecedented, with estimates suggesting that over 14 million people were displaced across the newly created borders. The journey was fraught with danger and hardship. Refugees traveled on foot, in overcrowded trains, and by any means available, often facing violence, hunger, and disease along the way. The images of this mass exodus, of families torn apart, belongings abandoned, and lives uprooted, are a stark reminder of the human cost of partition. The Partition of India was marred by widespread violence and brutality. As communities were divided and borders redrawn, long-simmering tensions boiled over, leading to horrific acts of violence between Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs. Massacres, riots, and acts of unspeakable cruelty became commonplace, as fear and hatred poisoned the hearts of people on both sides of the divide. The newly formed governments of India and Pakistan struggled to maintain order and protect their citizens. The partition, intended to be a peaceful transition, descended into chaos and bloodshed, leaving an enduring legacy of trauma and mistrust. The human cost of the 1947 partition was, well, immeasurable. While official estimates suggest that over 1 million people lost their lives in the violence surrounding the partition, the true toll is believed to be much higher. Countless others were injured, displaced, or left emotionally scarred by the events they witnessed. The partition left an indelible mark on the collective memory of India and Pakistan. Stories of loss, displacement, and violence were passed down through generations, shaping the identities and narratives of the two nations. The scars of partition continue to resonate today, serving as a reminder of the devastating consequences of division and hatred. On August 15, 1947, India achieved its long-fought independence, marking the end of the British Empire. However, this momentous occasion was overshadowed by the violence and displacement caused by partition. The dream of a united and independent India lay shattered, replaced by two new nations grappling with the challenges of nation building amidst the ruins of a shared past. The early years of independence were marked by immense challenges, as both India and Pakistan faced the daunting task of rehabilitating millions of refugees, establishing new institutions, and forging new national identities. The shadow of partition loomed large, shaping the political, social, and economic landscape of the two nations. The Partition of India in 1947 continues to cast a long shadow on the subcontinent. The Radcliffe Line, drawn in haste and without considering the complexities of the region, created enduring geopolitical tensions between India and Pakistan. The two nations have fought multiple wars over the disputed territory of Kashmir, a lasting legacy of the unresolved issues surrounding partition. The partition also had a profound impact on the social fabric of the subcontinent. The violence and displacement associated with partition deepened religious and communal divisions, fostering mistrust and suspicion between communities. The legacy of partition continues to influence political discourse, social relations, and cultural identities in both India and Pakistan. The 1947 Partition of India stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of division and the enduring legacies of colonialism. The events surrounding partition left an indelible mark on the subcontinent, shaping the destinies of millions of people and influencing the course of history for India and Pakistan. While the partition was a tragedy, it is essential to remember the resilience and spirit of those who endured its horrors. The stories of survivors, of their courage, loss, and hope, serve as a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome adversity. As we reflect on the 75th anniversary of this momentous event, it is crucial to learn from the mistakes of the past and strive to build bridges of understanding and reconciliation across the divides that continue to separate us. Only through empathy, dialogue, and a commitment to justice can we hope to heal the wounds of partition and create a more peaceful and just future for all.